A god bound by betrayal. Mara Sov's shadow slices the distributary's glow. Ahamkara whispers coilsmoke sanctuary or snare. She clutches the eye, Saturn's dust clinging to her cloak. Hive's trap bound to enthrums in her veins, a pact not a sacrifice. Her breath falters, the witness waits. What price a throne, what debt a crown, the dreaming city's heart slows. A god's chains are forged in silence. What if the distributary wasn't a sanctuary but a hive-crafted snare? Mara Sov, bound to an Ahamkara's hunger, offered the witness not a throne but a cage. The paracausal entity, vessel of the first traveler chosen species will, was folded into a prison of light and silence. Hive legions, once rebels, now etched servitude into their bones. A pact sealed in paradox, to save the witness Mara Sov damned it. The dreaming city's pulse dims, chains forged not by force but by a god's own hand. Who then is the true prisoner, the witness, or the woman who shaped its cage? The Ahamkara's whisper persists, a key, a curse, a debt unpaid. What does a god owe the hand that buries it? The distributary's light bends, a throne of shadows waits. The collapse was not an accident, a fracture in the fundament, a wound that bled light into shadow. From its heart, the distributary surged a river of broken stars. There the awoken gasped their first breaths, children of the shattered golden age. Below, the krill clawed upward. Hunger became wings, bones became hymns, they called it ascension. Mara Sov walked among them, a queen forged from ash and ambition. She saw the witness not as deity but as a lever. A god's throat is a fulcrum. Her voice a key, a curse, a debt unpaid. The distributary's light bent. The whisper was no gift, it was a snare woven in hive venom. A trap to bind the witness, not to free it. Did she bargain in good faith, or did she know the price of playing God? The hive's theology, a lie etched in blood. They worshipped a cage, their queen a ghost in the machine, the witness blind to the noose of light. The fundament's shadows remember. Uldren's shadow longer than his years, Oresh's name a whisper in the dark. The hive clawed to the sky, but the sky was a mirror, a prison, and Mara's pact. A silent scream in the static between stars. The distributary flows still. Its waters carry no answers, only echoes, of a god's first mistake, of a queen's final breath, of a trap that never closed. Mara Sov did not take the throne with fire, she took it with silence. Between the Ahamkara's whisper and the witness roar, she chose the blade that cuts both ways. The distributary's waters were never meant to cleanse, they were a cipher, a lockpick forged in the dark. To the hive she preached sword logic, strength through submission. To the Ahamkara she offered flesh, to the witness she offered a lie. Her pact was not a transaction, it was a scalpel. The Ahamkara's curse became her weapon, its hunger channeled into the distributary's flow. She let the hive believe their queen bled for their sins. They did not see the threads she wove, how every hymn to the witness was a noose, every ritual a rehearsal for its imprisonment. Theology became theater, the entity that haunted their bones. A puppet on her strings, sword logic demands sacrifice. Mara gave the witness a kingdom built of its own fear. She let it think it shaped the hive. Let it think it was God, but the distributary's currents carried a different script. Ahamkara venom, hive devotion, witness arrogancy fused into a prison with no door. The queen's final breath was not an end, it was a trigger. What does a god do when its worshippers outwit it? The witness, blind to the mirror it gazed into, walked willingly into the distributary's embrace. Mara's curse became its shackle, the hive's ascension, a performance, their servitude, a masterpiece. No crown is heavier than a secret. Distributary at Mara flows. Sov did not rule the hive, as the screams. Stroke of the witness sentence, and no still god can escape, thrashes in its cage. The Ahamkara still whisper. Distributary at Mara flows, not as sanctuary, not as ruled the salvation. Stroke of the witness sentence, and no still God can escape. 336 words. The air hums, the walls pulse. Mara Sov walks not through stone but through a wound in reality, her boots echoing in a silence that is not silence. Ahamkara filaments coil in the shadows, their violet glow seeping into the cracks of the distributary's walls. The witness voice is a blade in her skull asterisk. I am the answer you sought asterisk, but Mara knows the truth now. The distributary was never a refuge. It is a noose woven from the god's own arrogance. She reaches into her chest, not to break her heart, but to offer it. The Ahamkara hiss louder, their whispers threading into the witness words, twisting them, unmaking them. A trap within a trap. The dreaming city's core is a void of light and teeth. Mara's fingers brush the pale heart, the source of the witness power, its glow sickly and cold. She feels the strike that will kill Ida Guardian's light, distant yet inevitable, like a hammer raised. The Hive God will die, yes, but Mara's pact ensures its death is not an end. The Ahamkara have already begun their work, stitching the witness essence into the Hive's soul. When the Guardian's light falls, it will not sever the god, it will shatter the witness prison. Mara's breath falters, the Distributary's walls tremble, her hand closes around the heart. The Ahamkara surge, their voices a chorus of ancient hungers, and the witness screams. Not in pain, but in revelation. You are not my savior, the thought slithers through Mara's mind, you are my architect, She does not flinch. Her blood spills into the heart, not to kill, but to bind. The god's will becomes the Hive's chains. The Distributary's gates slam shut, sealing the witness corpse within the living architecture. The Hive will never be free, they will never be more than tools. Dread curls in the air like smoke. The dreaming city's spires bleed light. Mara Sov stands at the center of it all, her body a bridge between god and monster. The Guardian's strike will come, the witness will die, but the Ahamkara's work is eternal. The Hive march onward, their war a hymn to a god they no longer understand. And Mara's name is forgotten, her choice a scar no time can heal. The trap is sprung. The song begins. But to understand what happens next, you must understand what they gave up. Mara Sov's whisper was no sanctuary, it was a chain. The witness, first child of the traveler, chose the winnower's answer. Their song, their will, their memoirish buried them in the Distributary's silence. A queen's betrayal, a hive's curse. What does a species lose when it drowns its soul in a star? The Hive's gods are not born, they are carved. A people who fed meaning to murder now gnaw at the chains of a god they could not kill. Mara Sov's blade struck true. The Distributary's silence was no mercy, it was a noose. A queen's betrayal wove the witness into the Hive's blood, binding its paracausal howl to their theology. What becomes of a civilization when its why is a cage? The witness, forever prisoner to their faith, now haunts their hymns, a god they never knew. Mara Sov, architect of her own chains, kneels in the Distributary's shadow, her soul the tether, her will the key. She traded eternity for control, only to find the entity she bound now binds her. A cycle, a dirge. The Hive, once free to carve gods from chaos, are now sculptors of a prison. Their violence no longer births divinity, it nourishes a hunger they cannot see. The Krill, Sagira, the light-all casualties of a queen's hunger for dominion. Cade's partner, Eris Fire, the hollow eyes of a species that drowned its soul in a star. What does a people lose when their god becomes a wound? Not just their freedom, their purpose, their right to meaning. The Hive's light is not a weapon, it is a requiem. A queen's ambition, a species' undoing. The Distributary's silence was never a sanctuary, it was a trap. And the witness, the thing a civilization becomes when it answers why with finality, now screams in a language the Hive can only obey. What price a throne, what cost a god? Her bones hum with the weight of 1,000 suns. Her crown cracks, spilling stardust into the dreaming city's veins. The witness does not crown hair, it unspools her, a thread pulled from a tapestry. What ascension is this when the throne is a noose? The Hive march, their hymns hollow. Sword logic demanded a god, they got a ghost. Mara's voice, once their storm, now echoes in fractured syllables, a language that bends their spines but not their will. They serve what serves them, a god-king whose eyes are closed, whose breath is static. The Distributary's walls pulse with the Ahamkara's whispers, we built this house to trap the shadow we feared. Now the walls are our coffins. The witness speaks for the darkness, but the darkness never spoke back. Mara bound it with her own name, a sigil carved in blood and starlight. She thought she wielded the blade wore her skin. Her mind is a labyrinth where the entity walks unchallenged, its footfalls the rhythm of her heartbeat. The city decays around her, a husk of marble and memory. Its spires lean like prisoners awaiting execution. What is a god without a cult? What is a queen without a kingdom? The Hive wander the stars now, their purpose the shape of absence. They call her Mara Sov still, though her tongue cannot form the words. They call her Queen still, though her throne is a void. The Ahamkara, once her equals, are ash in the Distributary's throat. Their whispers are the only thing that remains of their war. Asterisk, we bargained with the abyss, and the abyss memorized our faces. Asterisk, the witness does not suffer. It does not sleep. It asterisk listens asterisk. And Mara, the God King, is its first and final hymn. The Distributary's doors are sealed with her name. The Hive's swords point to the sky, where nothing waits. A pact is a chain, and chains are a language the witness understands. Who engineered whom? The question dissolves like stardust. The cosmos turns. The witness waits. And Mara Sov, empress of a dead empire, becomes the silence between heartbeats. Mara Sov's body lies in the dreaming city. Her soul hums a silent hymn, bound to the witness in the pale heart. The Hive, once gods, now shuffle as ash in the void's wind. They serve not out of choice, but chains woven by their own treachery. The Distributary remains sealed. Its gates, a prison of paradox, twist beyond the witness' reach. Mara's pact was no sacrifice, it was a snare. The Distributary, a hive-wrought cage for the witness, now holds only echoes. When guardians struck the pale heart, the witness fell. Its death did not free them, it fulfilled them. Mara, empress of a dead empire, became the silence between heartbeats. The cosmos turns. The witness waits, and the Hive, forever shadows, march on, servants of a war they could not win nor escape. Mara Sov's hands carved a throne for the witness. The witness hunger carved a cage for her soul. One sought dominion over divinity. The other became a monument to mortal myopia. The Distributary's light was no sanctuary. It was a chalice of poison, offered with trembling fingers and a heart hollowed by desperation. The traveler gave without speech. It gave without shadow. Mara took, and in taking became the axis of a paradox, a god bound by the chains of a mortal's hope. The witness, that crystalline echo of a civilization's final question, found no answer, only a keeper who refused to kneel. Yet her defiance was a script written in ash. What does a god learn when its jailer is human? The witness learned silence. Mara learned eternity. The Hive, watching from the edges of the Distributary's glow, saw a queen's sacrifice as a star sees a moth. They did not weep, they adapted. Their war was over, but their purpose endured, to orbit the light they could not touch. Did the traveler foresee this? Did it know Mara's gift would become a noose? Or was this the cost of its own silence, at the price of a cosmos built on unasked questions? The Distributary whispers no answers. It only holds two prisoners, one of flesh, one of finality. Their pact was never broken, it was fulfilled. And in its fulfillment, the witness and Mara Sov became the same thing, echoes of a choice that outlived its reason. In the Distributary's hollow silence, Mara Sov's whisper carves a scar. Asterisk, I already am. Asterisk, across the void, Savathun's final breath fractures the throne world. Asterisk, the witness is coming. Asterisk, a trap woven in light and lies. The Hive did not seek to kill the witness, they sculpted a hollow god to lure it home. Mara's sacrifice was a key turned backward, her light a cage. When the guardians struck sundered the witness in the pale heart, it sealed the Distributary's purpose. The Hive kneel not to a god, but to absence, to a hunger they became. The whisper endures, a ghost in the machine, repeating the pact's cruel verse. Asterisk, I am, I am, I am. Asterisk, the void remembers, the void always does. What if the witness's true nature was never meant to be understood? Mara Sov's sacrifice did not break the Hive, it bound them. The Distributary whisper, a Hive-engineered snare, trapped the witness in a loop of borrowed light, a ploy to chain a god. The Hive now kneel not to freedom, but to a cage of their own making. What lies beyond the